Creating from the Heart, the Artistry of Living. I'm Suzy Vance, and I'm here with Bryana Bibbs, who has a unique approach to fiber and to weaving. She's fascinating, and she's going to tell us a lot about how'd you get into what it is you're doing, which we'll tell you in a minute.
Yeah, so I went to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago for my undergrad and graduated in 2014. I can't believe this year is going to be 10 years.
Whoa.
I feel very old.
Oh, yeah.
But I started off in the painting department and then wasn't really feeling like I could experiment in the ways that I wanted to. And so I went over to the fibers department and took
What took you to fiber?
Well, I was scrolling through to look at courses, and I had seen that there was a possibility to learn about quilting. And so I had wanted to learn how to quilt for a while because my grandfather knew how to do that, because that's something that his mother and his grandmother taught him how to do, but he didn't remember how to do it at the time. And so I thought, okay, what if I can learn how to quilt in this intro class? And so I took the intro class. We learned how to knit and crochet and do embroidery. We never learned how to quilt.
What?
Yeah, we never learned how to quilt.
This is false advertising.
Yeah, right. But we did learn how to weave. And so I remember I was not a fan in the beginning because I was like, oh, there's math involved. There's going to be all these things to do, the threading, the tie-ups, all the things.
And there's always perfection.
Right. And so once I sat down at the loom, I really felt this kind of relaxation take over me, just with how repetitive it was.
Once you got everything in place.
Once everything was in place, yep. I think we wove these like 10-inch by 10-inch squares. And once I did that, and once the rest of the class did it, we cut off our squares, and it was something really satisfying about having this.
There it is.
Yeah, this woven cloth. And yeah, from there I just stuck with it and kept going.
Kept going, except I think one of the most fascinating things you did was during COVID. If I may, this is what fascinated me. A lot of us out there have had or have read Julia Cameron's Artist Way, in which she says, if you really want to figure out what you're doing in life, you sit down every morning and you write 3 pages without stopping.
Right.
And you took a new take on that.
I did. Yeah. I had just returned to being an artist because after I graduated in 2015, a lot was kind of happening. And so in 2019, around November and December, I left my job and I said, I need to return to being an artist. Had no idea what that meant. Had no idea.
You left cold turkey?
I did. I put in my 2 weeks. I did it professional. But
you didn't have another job.
I worked at which I'm still working for now. I was working at the Art Institute in museum education, assisting in programs and things like that, which has been lovely. And then also was at the time teaching at the Evanston Art Center, like summer programs, winter programs, that kind of thing. But I missed making, right? Like I was watching all these other people make, and so I really missed that. And so I had these ideas to make larger scale works, and then COVID happened, and I couldn't really do that.
Why couldn't you do that? because you didn't have access to space?
Yeah, my studio, which I've had for a while now, my studio was kind of shut down because they wanted to, sanitize it, do all the things. And so I didn't really gain access to it again until like, I want to say the summer of 2020. But right when shutdown happened, I think that was what, March?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd had all these cardboard looms left over from programs and things like that that I'd done earlier in the year.
Uh-huh.
And so I used those looms to create the quarantine series, which were just these weird weavings that were made out of like materials that I had in my apartment.
These are like about this big?
Yeah, they're maybe like 10 by 14 inches. Maybe some of them are smaller
We'll
than that.
insert a picture.
Yes. And so I had got a spinning wheel during that series, and then I started doing another series, and then I landed on the journal series, which are the weavings that were just at the Chesterton Art Center.
Yes.
And I had done 79 of them, all between July of 2020 to the end of 2020.
Wow, what a record.
Yes.
And, when I looked at those, you had different occasions or different topics that each one was an expression of where you were in the moment.
Yeah.
And that is so fascinating to me because it is what Julia Cameron was trying to get people to do by writing. She didn't want you to write about the past unless it related to now.
Right.
And what you were doing is now.
Yeah.
And what you were doing is what you were feeling.
Yeah. I think, I didn't really know where the series was going to go. I didn't know how long I would do it.
You certainly didn't even know that it was ever going to be seen by the public.
No,
right?
no, I did not even think that. I thought, oh, nobody's gonna,
And one of the things I love is when you said, your parents could always read your diary, but they couldn't read your weavings.
No, nobody can read the weavings. And then what's also really great about that too is like people have their own connections, right? To somebody that visited the show said she had a connection to the dates, right? She was thinking about what was happening in her life according to the dates that I journaled. And so I thought that was really interesting because I had never thought about it in that way. So, yeah.
Well, it's wonderful. I just can hardly wait to see what happens next.
Yeah.
Because sooner or later you're going to get to a big one.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a few of them. They are
a few of them being bigger ones.
Huge, yeah.
What's huge?
5.5 by 5.5 feet, and then 6 by 6.5 feet. So I mean, it would be great to fill up like a 10-foot wall. But that requires a lot of resources. That requires also like interesting installation. That's one thing that I am trying to figure out as I want to explore the larger scale pieces, is like what's the best way to install these, because they're all hand spun wool, right? So that's very heavy. Like it's not something that's very light that you can just tack up on a wall. They're very, very heavy. So
well, this will be fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
Wonder what the story will be behind them.
I don't know. There's a
Are you still doing the small pieces?
Yes. Yeah, I'm doing the small ones still.
Are you moved by what I would call, I hate to call it the politics, but the socialization in the world and how it's expressing itself? Or is it more really personal life?
Yeah, it's definitely more personal life, but I think I think even so, maybe unconsciously,
Mhm.
right? I'm also reacting to things that are happening in the world, which
Mhm.
is like a ton of stuff right now. Um, but more recently, the journal series works have kind of um, documented this time of grief and loss in my family with the passing of my grandfather in December of last year.
Mhm.
So, like, well, I should say, taking apart like blankets that were his, taking apart his hospital
Oh.
blanket, including sympathy bouquets that people had given me and my mom when he passed. So it's definitely shifted from, this hand spun material that I was always using with, found objects and things
Mhm.
like that to fully being materials that were used, right,
Mhm.
by someone. So that's kind of the route that it's taking now. And I think for, the next large piece that I make, it will probably be along the lines of what grief and loss is to me right now, and
Mhm.
trying to navigate that.
Mhm. Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, thanks.
I can't wait to see. I hope you come back.
Yes, I would love to.
We'll see what we can do. Well, thank you for sharing. This is great.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, and we hope this works out all right. Creating from the Heart, the Artistry of Living, Bryana Bibbs. And if you think of anyone else you think I should interview, please let me know. See you next time.